Salam, Shalom, Hotep, and peace be unto everyone out in the listening audience. My name is Dr. Faheem Judah-EL, and I'm glad to be with you this evening for another lecture class on the symbols of ancient Kemet in our mysteries, our mystery system. And we're going to talk today about the Pre-Dawn Neteru. The Pre-Dawn Neteru starts with noon, also called Nu or Nine. This noon represents the unpolarized state of matter. The unpolarized state of matter. When we look in the ancient Kemetic creation text, it begins with the same basic concept that before the beginning of things, there was a liquidy primeval abyss. A liquidy primeval abyss. And later on, I'll talk to you about, when we start talking about human form, I'll talk to you about the Abyssinians. The Abyssinians. This was the name before the Ethiopians, before Ethiopia, the Greek word Ethiopia. They were called Abyssinians, from the abyss, those who came from the abyss. All right, so this liquidy primeval abyss was everywhere, endless, without boundaries or direction. In ancient Kemet, we call this the cosmic ocean or the watery chaos, the noon. And when you see in most scientific journals today, scientists agree that in ancient Kemet, in the ancient Kemetic description of the origin of the universe, that it was a great abyss. All right? They refer to this abyss as neutron soup. Neutron soup. This is where there's neither electrons nor protons, only neutrons. And these neutrons are forming one huge, extremely dense nucleus, a nuclei, okay? This was what we call the noon, all right? When we look at that, we see chaos. And in this chaos is this pre-creation state. And it was caused by the compression of matter. Atoms that did not exist in their normal state. These atoms were squeezed so closely together that many atomic nuclei were crowded into a space that was previously occupied by a normal atom. If you start to squeeze these atoms together, then you have a nuclei that is crowded in a space that was occupied by a single normal atom. Now, when this happens, under these types of conditions, what happens? The electrons of these atoms are squeezed out, and when they're squeezed out of their orbits and they move around freely, we call this a degenerative state. It becomes a degenerative state. All right? So, what happens? Physically, noon represents the watery abyss, the primeval chaos, the ground state of matter from which creation arises. Now, everything was inert, not active, and as these nuclei were squeezed in and pressed together in the space of where a normal atom is, then now you get this pressure that's built up. And when we look at this metaphysically, what does noon represent? Noon represents the subjective being, the symbol of the unformed, the unidentified, the undefined, matter or energy, inert or inactive, the uncreated state before creation. But it's that state that is now building for creation. right? This is the noon, the place of all potentiality. And then when the utterance of Ra, or the through Tahuti, now things begin to take place. And I'll show you this. But this is that place that even in the human being. So when we see it in human terms, noon represents in man, in us, the state of unconsciousness. We're not conscious. So we move to that unconscious state called the noon. And as I said earlier in other lectures, then we move into an area where we become attuned, or self-realization. Now we realize I'm conscious. But let me go back because I don't want to go too far ahead. All right. So in human terms, the noon represents that state of unconsciousness, like being asleep. Okay. In our mental powers are there, but they're just in a chaotic state. So we're in a state of noon. And most human beings, at some point, you're in a state of noon. It represents the person's potential, but it's not active. It's inert. And it needs to be recognized, sorted out, and utilized. Okay? It needs to be recognized first, sorted out, and then utilized. So that's the potential. And the potential in man is limitless. It comes from a place that is not active, but it is a reserve. It is a place that is there, that is inert, that you can tap into and awakening consciousness will take place. All right, so now let's look at the 4 pairs from the city of 8, city of Tahuti. The number 8 is called Ogdad, the Ogdad. And this is the 4 pairs. In the Kemetic text, it states that the noon is the pre-creation chaos, the pre-creation. And in the Bible, we read where God creates the heavens and the earth is void, without form. Okay. So, what is the 4 pairs? The 4 pairs it possesses the characteristics that are identified with 4 pairs of primordial powers, or primordial forces. All right. Each pair represents a primeval dual gender twin, the masculine and the feminine aspect. The 4 pairs are equivalent to the 4 forces of the universe: the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, gravity, and electromagnetism. Those are your 4 pairs that are equivalent to the 4 forces of the universe: the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, gravity, and electromagnetism. The manifestation of creation in what we call 8 terms, or Ogdad. All right. This is expressed in all Kemetic cosmological centers. All right. If you go to Min-Nefer, you'll see Ta in his 8 forms who created the universe. When you go to Heliopolis or Anu, you'll see Atum created the 8 divine beings. Atum and the 8 beings are known as the Grand Ennead, the Supreme 9. So you'll see that when you go to Ta'apet or Thebes, Luxor, you'll see Amen created the Ogdad. You'll see in Hermopolis, you'll see Hanun, the 8 primeval Neteru. You'll see the Ogdad represented the primeval state of the universe, the 4 dual gender twins. All right. So now I'm going to get into these 4 dual gender twins. So I'm going to give you the name, what they represent, and the symbols. Right. And the first of the 4 is the noon. Like I said, the noon, that inert place, that place of chaos, the potential, unformed, that unawakening state, but has potential. Noon. And the